Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of the Escalation Podcast in 2026. If you're listening to this while walking to the gym, don't worry, so is half the corporate world. January is that magical month where every treadmill is booked, every planner is pristine, and every ambition feels briefly unstoppable. And for a few weeks, we genuinely believe we're about to become new people. Lighter, calmer, more organized, more intentional and addiction-free. The kind of people who color code their inboxes, meal prep on Sundays and glide through meetings and remember to drink gallons of water every day. Until, of course, February arrives quietly without warning and suddenly the gym is empty, the planner is lost, and January's best intentions quietly dissolve. Today, we're going to talk about why this happens. And it's not because your lack of discipline, but actually because resolutions are structurally designed to fail. And more importantly, we're going to discuss how to build a blueprint for a successful year that doesn't evaporate by week 6. Let's be honest. Corporate life has turned self-improvement into a competitive sport. The pressure isn't just to set goals, it's to transform, to become a better leader, better performer, better parent, better friend, all while navigating quarterly targets, career politics, office drama, and the occasional existential crisis triggered by a 9 p.m. urgent email. So no wonder our resolutions collapse. We're trying to rebuild our entire identity while keeping the same calendar, the same responsibilities, and the same expectations. And accordingly to leadership research, most resolutions fail for 4 predictable reasons. They're too vague, they're overloaded and unrealistic, no one holds us accountable, and they're misaligned with what truly matters. That's not a motivational problem. That's a design problem. And it transpires that the truth no one really says out loud is that reinvention is overrated. Refinement is where the power is, and neuroscience backs this up. Small, repeatable actions rewire habits far more reliably than ambitious January overhauls. Most of us don't need a new self. We need new systems. So let me illustrate this a little bit better. January often arrives with a genuine sense of determination. We decide to wake up earlier, train before work, commit to long postponed goals, fitness, learning, focus, personal growth. All these intentions are very sincere. They come from a real desire to do better, to feel more in control, and to start the year with momentum. And then the early mornings become harder to sustain. The marathon plan loses urgency. The meditation app goes untouched. And not because the ambition disappeared, but because life, workload, and reality reasserted themselves. And sometimes the ambition takes a different form. You buy the beautifully organized system, the color-coded folders, the planners, the binders. I say this as someone who has bought more planners and notebooks over the years than I care to admit, each one chosen carefully with genuine hope that this would be the one that finally brought clarity. By March, they're still largely unused, and somehow I've quietly reverted to my old habit, jotting things down on yellow legal pads, just like I always have. Not because the intention wasn't real, it absolutely was, but because buying the system is easier than building a habit that sustains it. And there is something else happening here that's easy to miss. Every time we quietly let ourselves off the hook, when we make promises and repeatedly don't keep them, we lose a small amount of self-trust. Over time, that erosion shows up as reduced self-respect and confidence. So ambition isn't the problem here. Architecture is. Behavioral science consistently shows that we overestimate how much we can change quickly and underestimate what steady, consistent, small effort can achieve over time. When systems don't exist to support the ambition, momentum fades. Not through lack of desire, but through lack of structure. Now let's talk about what does work. The blueprint. There are 5 key elements to it. Number 1, choose a theme, not a task. Resolutions fail because they're tasks. Tasks depend on motivation, and motivation is allergic to Mondays, Q1 reporting, and cold weather. Themes, on the other hand, survive February. A theme acts like a compass, so choose something that shapes your behavior across decisions, meetings, negotiations, and your leadership moments. Here are some more practical examples. Alignment, so instead of saying, I'll read 20 books, align, which means you stop scattering your attention across every shiny opportunity and start choosing the things that genuinely move your life and career forward. In practice, this may look like taking on projects that serve you long term and saying no elegantly but firmly to work that drains you or dilutes your trajectory. Letting standards and not pressure guide your commitments is also very important, and choosing learning that shapes the future you're building, not the identity you've outgrown. Alignment really turns your year into a strategy, not a scavenger hunt. Next, choose visibility as a theme instead of I'll speak up more in meetings. Visibility isn't loudness, it's intentional presence. It's understanding that corporate life runs not just on competence, but on perception, sponsorship, and narrative. Visibility can look like sharing your progress before you're asked, so your work doesn't live in the shadows. Positioning yourself in conversations where decisions, not commentary, are made, and creating one high-value visibility moment each quarter. For example, a presentation, a thought leadership piece, or a strategic update. Building a reputation for clarity, authority, and reliability rather than hoping someone eventually notices you is visibility. It's not self-promotion, it's professional signaling. Next, choose to simplify instead of I'll be more productive. So making things simpler is not minimalism. It's more like optimization. It's removing friction. So your energy goes toward the things that actually matter. Simplify may look like streaming your morning routine to reduce decision fatigue before work even begins, or creating a default weekly schedule that protects your focus time from meeting chaos, automating, delegating, and eliminating tasks that don't require your time and mind, and finally choosing the one performance metric that truly moves your career and letting that metric drive your choices. To me, for example, that's linked to visibility. To you, that may be a decision exposure, for example, and focusing on putting yourself in rooms where outcomes are decided. So the idea to choose simplification as a theme makes your impact sharper. Research confirms that identity-based themes also outperform task-based goals. When your goals reflect who you want to become, not what you want to do, behavior naturally follows. When I began applying this, designing my year from the place of who I wanted to become rather than what I thought I should achieve, things started to shift. Not instantly, not perfectly, but meaningfully. And I'm still learning how to stay with that becoming, even when it feels uncomfortable. The second element of our blueprint is conduct a failure audit. Now, before you design a better year, it's important that you examine the previous one without judgment, and what we want is 10 minutes of honesty. Ask yourself, where did your energy leak? What patterns might have sabotaged your progress, and have you addressed the root cause? What did you tolerate that perhaps drained you? And have you allowed yourself to fail enough? Thomas Edison ran well over 1,200 experiments in his work on the light bulb, testing more than 6,000 different materials in the process. And when asked about the so-called failures along the way, he famously said, I've gotten a lot of results, and I know several thousand things that won't work. This is the mindset that I've been cultivating with better and worse results. But failure is your data. It's precious feedback and information, yet it's tough for us to implement in real life as it demands courage and the ability to surrender. But reflective practice is proven to consistently reduce repeat mistakes. Elite performance investigate failure. They don't personalize it. So spend 10 minutes on your failure audit. Number 3 on our blueprint is build microsystems, not mega goals. So if your 2026 plan requires monk-like discipline you never attempted before, it's not really a plan. It may be fiction. Microsystems are small, boring, but shockingly effective. For example, implement a 5-minute daily debrief to reset your mind, or a rule that emails never end your day. Your priorities do. Start a visibility wins folder. I call it my fluffy file for performance review seasons. Research shows that micro habits reduce your stress, increase productivity, and outperform willpower heavy approaches. Even a 60-second mindfulness pause every hour can increase productivity by up to 20%. These are tiny hinges that move big doors. Microsystems don't care if you're tired, overwhelmed, or uninspired. They operate whether you feel motivated or not, which is exactly why they work. Next, create career leverage moments. One of the biggest misconceptions is that success comes from working harder or longer. It rarely does. In our corporate world, success accelerates when you create leverage moments, low frequency, high impact moves. In other words, success doesn't come from doing more. It comes from doing the right things over and over again. So if you're looking to lock in that promotion this year, consider aiming for 3 leverage moments in 2026, like 1 high-value relationship that expands your opportunities, 1 visibility opportunity that changes how senior stakeholders perceive you, and 1 skill upgrade that materially increases your market value. 3 moves, not 37 goals. And our final element of the blueprint is setting quarterly check-ins. January motivation is not going to last an entire year. It shouldn't be expected to. Schedule quarterly check-ins, quiet, honest conversations with yourself where you can recalibrate, shift the theme if needed, upgrade the systems, and ask yourself better questions. Most corporate agile organizations run on 90-day cycles because the data proves annual planning is too rigid for real-world volatility. Your personal development is no different. Quarterly reviews keep you adaptive, not idealistic. So think of it as treating your year in a way compliance treats documentation. Periodic review required. So here's the thing. You don't need to become a new version of yourself this year. You're not starting from scratch. You're starting from experience. You simply need to give yourself some appreciation for the version of you who survived last year, who navigated uncertainty, multiple conflicting priorities and deadlines, restructures, politics, and all the invisible labor that never even made it into the performance review. Ambition fatigue is very real, and it's rising. Constantly chasing new, bigger, shiny goals without building a recovery system is the quickest path to burnout. But sustainable ambition is built on precision and not pressure. So be kind to yourself. Ambition without exhaustion is very possible. It just requires a shift. So less hustle, more strategy, less noise, more intention, and less reinvention, more alignment with your true identity and purpose. The version of you that's listening right now is more than enough to create an extraordinary year with better architecture, better systems, and better alignment. So as we step into the new year, here's my wish for you. May this be a year not driven by resolutions that vanish, but by small, consistent moves that are strategic, entirely yours, and that compound with time into a greater revolution. A year where you build, refine, adjust, and recognize your own power without the need of having anyone else validating it. And remember, there is no universal blueprint. What works beautifully for one person may not work for another. Your job this year isn't to copy someone else's routine, but to notice what genuinely supports you, what fits the life you're actually living, and what you can sustain when January energy fades. I want to leave you with a quote from James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Goals are powerful, and by all means we should all have them, but it's the systems you build around them that quietly determine where you end up. Until next time, and welcome to a very different kind of new year.